From the very beginning, I believed that everyone carries a dream inside them that refuses to sit quietly. For me, that dream was a restaurant of my own. Not just a business, not just a building with tables and chairs, but a space that reflected my hard work, my journey, and my identity. I didn't come from a background where opportunities were handed out easily. I had to earn every inch of progress with patience, sweat, and determination. There were days I worked more than my body could handle, nights I went to bed with aching feet, and mornings I woke before the sun, chasing something that seemed far away but never impossible. I saved not from abundance, but from discipline. Every little coin that others considered too small to matter, I treated as a stepping stone towards something bigger. There were no shortcuts in this story. While others had support, I had only commitment. I learned every corner of the business, how to negotiate with suppliers, how to manage staff, how to control waste, how to serve customers in a way that made them feel like they belonged. I studied menus, market prices, food trends, and customer psychology. I watched and listened more than I spoke because I knew that knowledge is what separates those who dream from those who achieve. People saw the result later. The keys, the name on the papers, the flickering signboard at the entrance. But they never saw the silence behind it, the nights of doubt, the sacrifices, the tears wiped when no one was watching. But instead of breaking me, every obstacle shaped me. When I couldn't afford equipment, I worked with what I had. When I didn't have professional training, I learned by doing. When life tried to convince me to settle, I pushed further. Slowly, the idea became a sketch, then a plan, then a humble start that eventually grew into the restaurant I had once only seen in my imagination. I remember the day I signed the final papers. The pen shook slightly in my hand, not because I was nervous, but because I understood the weight of that moment. It wasn't just a transaction, it was the physical proof of every day. I showed up even when giving up would have been easier. And when I finally walked through the doors as the owner, I didn't feel pride because I had a business. I felt pride because I had built something that no one could claim they handed to me. I built it with faith, with effort, with resilience. I didn't owe it to luck or chance. I owed it to the version of myself who refused to stop. Every tile, every table, every plate carried a story of perseverance. That restaurant was a testament to what a person can achieve when they hold on to their dream, even when no one else believes in it. And little did I know, life was about to show just how powerful that faith truly was. I still remember the day the words were spoken, not because they were loud, but because they cut quietly in a place no one could see. I was standing in the restaurant, still filled with the excitement of a dream finally realized, thinking he would be proud, thinking he would see the effort that brought us to this point. Instead, he looked around, shrugged, and with a calmness that shocked me more than anger ever could, said that his mother deserved the restaurant instead of me. In that moment, the world did not fall apart, but something inside me shifted. I wasn't just hearing a sentence, I was hearing years of dedication being dismissed in a single breath. I was hearing the weight of old beliefs, old expectations, the kind of thinking that says a woman's accomplishments are somehow secondary, borrowed, or temporary. And the most painful part was that I heard it from someone who should have known my struggle better than anyone. I didn't respond immediately. Sometimes silence is not weakness, sometimes silence is simply the space you give yourself to remain dignified when your heart is hurting. I stood there, feeling my excitement drain, replaced by a kind of numbness, not because he questioned the restaurant, but because he questioned my right to it. He had seen me wake up before dawn, had seen me come home exhausted long after everyone had slept, had seen the spreadsheets, the savings, the compromises, the late-night planning, the days I stood strong even when I felt small. Yet in a single statement, he reduced all that effort to nothing more than something someone else deserved. It reminded me that sometimes the biggest challenges in life are not financial, not logistical, not even physical, they are emotional. They come from the people close to us who underestimate our worth. I wanted to shout, to explain, to defend myself. But then I realized that sometimes explanation is wasted on someone who has already decided not to understand. So I breathed, held my ground, and told myself that my work would speak for me better than any words ever could. I knew that hurt could either break me or sharpen me. I chose the latter. And while I didn't show it on my face, inside I was having a conversation with myself. If you let this moment define you, you lose. If you let it fuel you, you grow. That thought became the reason I didn't shed a tear in front of him. I didn't let anger fill the room. I didn't demand validation. I simply walked back into the kitchen, touched the counters I had worked so hard to afford, and reminded myself that the ones who doubt you today often become the ones who clap the loudest later when life proves them wrong. He did not know it then, but that sentence became the spark that would later show him, not through arguments, but through results, that no one deserves the fruits of your labor more than the one who planted, watered, protected, and believed when no one else did. In the days that followed, I had a choice to make. I could collapse under the weight of someone else's judgment, or I could continue standing, knowing my journey had never depended on their approval in the first place. And standing strong does not mean you feel no pain. It simply means you don't let the pain decide your behavior. I carried the sting of those words with me, but instead of letting them turn me bitter, I let them remind me why I started. I reminded myself that the restaurant wasn't a gift handed to me, it was something I fought for, step by step, sacrifice by sacrifice. And because of that, I wasn't about to let anyone make me doubt my place in it. I walked into the restaurant every morning with the same attitude I had before that comment was ever spoken. Focus, discipline, faith in myself, and respect for the work. If tears came, they came at night, in silence. But during the day, I showed strength. I didn't argue with him. I didn't bring up the subject again, and I didn't demand understanding. I have learned that when someone refuses to see your value, the worst mistake you can make is begging them to. Instead, I poured that energy back into the business. I focused on improving the menu, training staff, increasing the quality of service, and making the place a spot customers would return to, not just for the food, but for the atmosphere of warmth and welcome. Every challenge became motivation. If the kitchen was short-staffed, I stepped in. If a supplier raised prices, I negotiated. If a customer complained, I listened and fixed the issue personally. I didn't allow negative emotions to spill over into the work I loved. I treated the restaurant like something alive, something that needed care, attention, and presence. And slowly, small victories began to appear. A regular customer complimented the food. A new customer walked in because someone recommended the place. A good week of sales turned into a good month. Word of mouth started moving quietly through the neighborhood. These things were small on the outside, but inside, they reminded me that progress doesn't need applause to be real. It just needs consistency. It wasn't about proving him wrong, it was about proving myself right. I didn't chase validation from anyone. I chased excellence in the work, believing that success would speak on my behalf in a language that required no debate. Standing strong is not a pose, it is a decision. A decision to keep your heart steady when your world shakes, to choose progress over pettiness, to keep your hands working even when your spirit is bruised. And every day that I chose that path, I could feel myself becoming stronger, more centered, more unshakable than before. I realized that sometimes life does not test you to show others who you are. It tests you to show yourself who you have grown into. Life has its own way of balancing the scales, and it rarely announces when the lesson is coming. I didn't set out to prove anyone wrong, and I didn't spend my time hoping for some dramatic moment of realization. I simply showed up, day after day, and put in the work. While I was busy building the business, life was quietly arranging the pieces around us. Customers began noticing the changes, the consistency, the warmth, the quality of food, the attention to detail. The restaurant started gaining life and momentum, not through luck, but through effort, through the small choices made every single day. It didn't happen overnight, but it did happen. And without me ever saying a word, the results began to speak for themselves. Meanwhile, he began to see differences too. He expected things to fall apart, expected me to struggle, expected the business to prove his words right. But instead, it started doing the opposite. Every week, the numbers improved. Every month, new customers came through the door. People in the community started mentioning the restaurant with respect. His assumptions began to crumble, not through confrontation, but through quiet success. And that is something more powerful than any argument, because when life teaches someone a lesson, it doesn't use anger or noise, it uses reality. At first, he brushed it off as coincidence. Maybe it was a good week, maybe a holiday, maybe just luck. But luck doesn't repeat itself month after month. Luck doesn't turn first-time visitors into loyal regulars. Luck doesn't build a reputation that grows beyond your street and into other neighborhoods. That is the result of work. And he began to notice that he was no longer looking at a hobby or a small venture. He was looking at a business that was thriving, and it was thriving under the leadership he once dismissed as undeserving. One evening, I watched him as he stood quietly in a corner, looking around the restaurant. He wasn't speaking, but I could see something shifting in his face. The tables were full, the staff were serving confidently, customers were laughing and enjoying their meals, and everything operated like a well-run ship. For the first time, he saw not just a restaurant, he saw the truth. And that truth was that nothing had been handed to me. I had earned every part of it, built it from the foundation up, and no one could take that away. Life had delivered the message better than I ever could have. Sometimes it takes seeing results to understand someone's struggle, and sometimes it takes success to show what strength looks like. I didn't gloat. I didn't remind him of his words. I didn't say, "I told you so." I didn't need to. The lesson had already unfolded in front of him, shaped by time, effort, and reality. And in that moment, I learned something too. When you stay focused on growth instead of revenge, life teaches the lessons you never have to deliver yourself. Respect is a powerful thing, and what makes it powerful is that it cannot be taken or demanded, it has to be earned. In the beginning, he believed that the restaurant belonged to someone else, simply because of tradition, because of old thinking, because he assumed that a woman's achievement was somehow less than her duty. But as the days passed, and the reality of success became undeniable, something began to change. Not all at once, and not with grand apologies or big speeches, but with subtle shifts in behavior, in tone, in silence. Sometimes the first sign that someone is learning is not what they say, it's what they stop saying. He watched as customers greeted me with warmth and gratitude, as staff looked to me for leadership, and as suppliers spoke to me with respect because they knew I understood my business. He saw that this restaurant was not built through shortcuts or favors, but through seriousness, discipline, and commitment. And slowly, he began to realize that respect is not a title, it is a recognition of value. People in the world don't respect positions, they respect performance. They don't respect claims, they respect competence. They don't respect names on paper. They respect the hands that built something from nothing. I could sense that internal shift. He started asking questions instead of giving instructions. He started observing instead of assuming. He started understanding that leadership isn't about who is older, louder, or entitled. It's about who shows up, who takes responsibility, who delivers results. And what touched me the most was that life didn't humiliate him to teach the lesson. Life simply presented the truth in a way that he couldn't ignore. When the truth becomes so visible that even someone who doubted you can't deny it, that is when respect begins to grow. It was a lesson for him, but also a reminder for me. Sometimes we try so hard to explain ourselves, to get validation from people who aren't ready to see our worth. But when we stop begging for recognition and focus instead on becoming excellent at what we do, life has a way of bringing the recognition to us. Not through shouting, not through fighting, but through achievement. And when respect comes through achievement, it stands on solid ground. It can't be shaken by gossip, opinions, comparisons, or tradition. I never asked to be placed above anyone. I just wanted the dignity of being recognized for the work I did, the effort I gave, and the passion I stood behind. And life showed him that respect is not inherited. It is earned by the one who keeps going when everyone expects her to fail. That transformation didn't just change how he viewed me, it changed how he viewed effort itself. Because when someone learns to separate entitlement from achievement, they start understanding that respect isn't a right, it is a reward. In the end, the lessons that life teaches us are not just for the people who doubt us. They are for everyone who has ever been underestimated, overlooked, or judged before they even took their first step. When I look back at the journey, I realize that the real victory was not the restaurant itself, but the growth that happened inside me and around me. We live in a world where many people are quick to conclude what someone can or cannot do based on gender, position, family roles, or tradition. And so often, women in particular are expected to succeed silently and fail publicly. But the truth is, no one knows the storms a person has survived just to stand where they are. Every achievement has a story, and every story has struggle behind it that most people never see. When he told me that his mother deserved the restaurant instead of me, he wasn't just speaking from personal opinion, he was speaking from a mindset that has existed in many homes, in many cultures, for generations. A mindset that says women can support but not lead, can work but not own, can build but not be credited. But life is changing, and the world is beginning to recognize that strength, intelligence, and capability don't belong to any one gender. They belong to anyone willing to work, learn, and persevere. And that is the message I want every person to walk away with. Don't ever let someone decide your value based on where you stand now. They weren't there when you were climbing. Sometimes people think respect should come automatically because of their role in your life, their age, their position, or their traditions. But that is not how life works. Respect is a living thing. It grows when nourished and disappears when neglected. And the best way to earn respect is not through fighting, arguing, or proving someone wrong. It is through consistent action. When you show up every day with discipline, principles, and humility, life has a way of placing you exactly where you deserve to be. And when success finally arrives, silence becomes louder than words. This journey taught me that validation is never as important as self-belief. If you know what you are capable of, if you trust the grind and trust your direction, then the world will eventually catch up, even the people who doubted you. And sometimes, when those very people witness your results, they don't just respect you, they start respecting the process that built you. That is how progress happens. Not in a single moment, but in thousands of moments where you choose to keep going, even when no one is clapping. So the real message is simple. Never underestimate yourself just because someone else does. Never shrink your dreams to fit someone else's expectations. Never believe that your role in life has already been written for you. You have the right to rewrite your story, earn your place, and stand tall in your own life with or without applause.